Some people spend their entire lives trying to fit into the expectations of everyone around them. They follow popular opinions, avoid standing out, and measure their worth through acceptance. Others, however, discover early that they see the world differently. They notice patterns others ignore. They are comfortable spending time alone. They ask difficult questions instead of accepting easy answers. At times, this difference can feel like a burden because they often feel misunderstood. Yet what seems like isolation may actually be the beginning of extraordinary personal growth. Many people fear being alone because they have been taught that constant connection is a sign of happiness and success. They fill every quiet moment with conversation, entertainment, notifications, or the presence of others, believing that silence is something to escape. Yet there is a profound difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is the painful feeling of being disconnected from meaningful relationships, while solitude is the intentional choice to create space for reflection, learning, and personal growth. Those who learn to appreciate solitude discover that it is not empty at all. It becomes the place where the mind clears, priorities become obvious, and true confidence begins to grow. When you are constantly surrounded by noise, it becomes difficult to hear your own thoughts. Other people's opinions, expectations, and emotions gradually influence your decisions until you are no longer certain which goals truly belong to you. Time alone interrupts that pattern. It gives you the opportunity to ask honest questions about the direction of your life, the habits you have formed, and the person you are becoming. These answers rarely appear in the middle of distraction. They emerge only when the mind is given enough quiet to think deeply. Solitude also teaches emotional independence. Many people unknowingly become dependent on constant attention and reassurance. They need messages to feel valued, compliments to feel confident, and approval to believe they are making the right choices. While encouragement is valuable, depending on it creates emotional instability because other people cannot always provide what you expect. A person who is comfortable alone gradually learns to build confidence from within. They stop measuring their worth by the number of people around them and begin measuring it by the quality of their character, their discipline, and their daily actions. Another hidden benefit of solitude is that it strengthens your ability to concentrate. The modern world constantly competes for your attention. Every notification, headline, trend, and conversation demands a response. Over time, this endless stimulation weakens the ability to focus deeply on meaningful work. Solitude protects your attention by removing unnecessary distractions. In those quiet moments, you can read without interruption, practice a skill with complete concentration, reflect on mistakes without outside pressure, and create ideas that might never appear in a noisy environment. Many of the world's greatest discoveries, inventions, books, and works of art were developed by people who understood the value of uninterrupted thought. Solitude also reveals your true habits. When nobody is watching, your choices reflect your real priorities. Do you continue learning even when there is no reward? Do you remain disciplined when there is no audience? Do you honor your commitments even when breaking them would go unnoticed? These private decisions shape your future far more than occasional public achievements. Character is strengthened through consistent actions performed in silence, not through impressive moments performed for recognition. Over time, the ability to enjoy your own company becomes a quiet source of strength. You become less influenced by comparison, less distracted by unnecessary opinions, and less dependent on constant validation. Your decisions grow clearer because they are guided by thoughtful reflection instead of social pressure. Your confidence becomes calmer because it is built upon self-respect rather than attention. What once seemed like isolation gradually becomes one of your greatest advantages, providing the clarity, discipline, and inner stability needed to build a meaningful life on your own terms. Most people listen with the intention of replying, not with the intention of understanding. They enter conversations already preparing their next sentence, eager to share opinions, defend beliefs, or draw attention to themselves. As a result, they miss the countless details hidden beneath the surface. The individuals who develop exceptional insight into human behavior are usually those who spend more time observing than speaking. They recognize that every conversation reveals far more than the actual words being spoken. Tone of voice, consistency, body language, timing, emotional reactions, and repeated patterns often communicate truths that words alone cannot express. By slowing down and paying attention, you begin to understand people on a much deeper level than someone who is focused only on being heard. Observation is a skill that improves with patience. It requires resisting the urge to make immediate judgments or conclusions. Instead of deciding who someone is after a single interaction, you allow time to reveal their character. One act of kindness may be genuine, or it may simply reflect a good mood. One mistake may be understandable, or it may become part of a repeated pattern. Wise judgment is built through consistency, not isolated moments. This approach prevents many unnecessary disappointments because you learn to evaluate people by their repeated actions instead of their temporary emotions or carefully chosen words. Careful observation also improves your decision-making. When emotions are high, many people react before understanding the full situation. They interrupt, argue, defend themselves, or make assumptions without gathering enough information. This often leads to misunderstandings that could have been avoided through patience. A thoughtful observer pauses first. They ask questions, notice details, and consider different perspectives before responding. This habit creates clarity because decisions are based on facts rather than emotional impulse. Another benefit of observing more than speaking is that people naturally reveal themselves when they feel they are being heard. Many individuals are eager to talk about their experiences, frustrations, ambitions, and beliefs. If you remain genuinely interested, instead of constantly redirecting the conversation toward yourself, they often provide valuable insight into their priorities, values, and motivations. This is not about judging people unfairly. It is about understanding them accurately. The more clearly you understand others, the more wisely you can build relationships, avoid unnecessary conflict, and recognize opportunities that might otherwise remain hidden. Observation is equally important when directed toward yourself. Pay attention to your own habits, emotional triggers, strengths, and weaknesses. Notice which situations repeatedly distract you, which environments help you perform your best, and which routines strengthen your discipline. Self-awareness is one of the most valuable forms of observation because meaningful growth begins by honestly understanding yourself. When you recognize your own patterns, you gain the ability to improve them instead of remaining controlled by them. In a world filled with constant noise, the ability to observe quietly becomes increasingly rare. Many people compete to speak first, react first, and be noticed first. The person who listens carefully, thinks deeply, and responds thoughtfully often develops greater wisdom over time. They avoid many mistakes because they refuse to rush their judgment. Their confidence becomes quieter because it's built on understanding instead of assumption. They influence others not by speaking the most, but by speaking with clarity when it truly matters. Over time, this habit transforms the way you experience the world. You begin seeing connections that others overlook, recognizing opportunities hidden within ordinary moments, and understanding people with greater depth and compassion. By choosing observation over constant reaction, you develop a calm, steady awareness that strengthens your judgment, improves your relationships, and helps you move through life with greater purpose and confidence. Most people accept ideas simply because they have heard them repeated often enough. They rarely stop to ask whether those beliefs are true, useful, or aligned with their own experiences. From childhood, people are influenced by family, education, culture, social media, and the opinions of those around them. While learning from others is essential, there is a danger in accepting every popular belief without careful examination. Independent thinking begins the moment you become willing to ask difficult questions. Instead of following the crowd automatically, you pause, observe, gather information, and form conclusions based on evidence and thoughtful reflection. This habit does not make you rebellious for the sake of being different. It makes you responsible for your own mind. A person who thinks independently understands that popularity and truth are not always the same. Throughout history, many ideas once accepted by the majority were later proven to be incomplete or entirely wrong. Progress has always depended on individuals who are willing to question assumptions, explore new possibilities, and challenge limitations that everyone else accepted without hesitation. This same principle applies in everyday life. If you constantly make decisions based only on what everyone else is doing, you may gain temporary approval, but you also risk living a life that reflects other people's expectations instead of your own purpose. Independent thinking requires courage because it often leads to temporary discomfort. There will be moments when your choices are misunderstood. Some people may question your direction simply because it differs from their own. Others may discourage your ambitions because they measure your potential according to their personal limitations. If your confidence depends entirely on agreement from others, these opinions can easily change your path. However, when your decisions are supported by careful thought, continuous learning, and clear values, outside pressure becomes much less powerful. You remain open to useful advice, but you no longer surrender your judgment simply to avoid criticism. Another important part of questioning everything is learning to question yourself. Independent thinkers do not assume they are always correct. They regularly examine their own beliefs, admit mistakes, and remain willing to change their opinions when better evidence appears. This humility protects them from becoming trapped by pride. Real wisdom is not stubbornly defending every opinion you have ever held. It is having the confidence to improve your thinking whenever new understanding becomes available. Growth becomes possible because learning never stops. This mindset also strengthens your ability to solve problems creatively. Instead of accepting limitations as permanent, you begin searching for different approaches. Challenges become opportunities to think more deeply rather than excuses to give up. You develop the habit of looking beyond obvious answers, considering multiple perspectives, and finding solutions that others may overlook because they never question the first idea presented to them. Over time, this creates confidence rooted in understanding rather than imitation. You become less influenced by trends, less distracted by popular opinion, and more focused on building a life that reflects your genuine values. Your decisions become more deliberate because they are guided by reason instead of pressure. Your goals become more meaningful because they are chosen intentionally rather than borrowed from someone else's expectations. Eventually, you discover that one of the greatest freedoms in life is the ability to think for yourself with honesty, humility, and discipline. By questioning assumptions, remaining curious, and refusing to follow the crowd blindly, you build a stronger mind, make wiser decisions, and create a future shaped by thoughtful purpose instead of unconscious conformity. Pain is one of the few experiences every person will face, yet not everyone responds to it in the same way. Some allow painful moments to define the rest of their lives, while others choose to let those same experiences shape them into stronger, wiser, and more resilient individuals. The difference is not found in the amount of suffering they endure, but in the meaning they choose to give it. Every disappointment, rejection, failure, betrayal, or setback presents two possible paths. One path leads toward bitterness, self-doubt, and resentment. The other leads toward understanding, growth, and personal transformation. Although neither path is easy, the second allows pain to become a teacher instead of a permanent burden. When something difficult happens, the natural response is often to ask, "Why did this happen to me?" While this question is understandable, it rarely produces useful answers. A more empowering question is, what can this experience teach me? That single shift changes your relationship with adversity. Instead of seeing yourself as powerless, you begin looking for lessons hidden inside the challenge. A failed opportunity may reveal a skill that still needs improvement. A broken relationship may teach the importance of healthy boundaries and honest communication. A major setback may expose weaknesses in preparation that can be strengthened for the future. Every hardship contains information if you are willing to look beyond the immediate pain. Growth does not happen because pain exists. Growth happens because you respond to pain with intention. Time alone does not heal every wound. Reflection, learning, and consistent effort create healing. If difficult experiences are ignored, they often leave behind fear, anger, or regret. If they are examined honestly, they can become powerful sources of wisdom. This requires courage because facing uncomfortable truths is never easy. It may mean admitting mistakes, changing habits, or accepting realities that are difficult to face. Yet every honest lesson learned becomes another step toward becoming a stronger person. Another important part of turning pain into growth is refusing to let a single event become your identity. Many people experience failure once and begin calling themselves failures. They face rejection and conclude they are unworthy. They make a mistake and believe they are incapable of success. These conclusions are rarely accurate. An event describes something that happened. It does not define who you are or what you can become. Keeping this distinction clear allows you to move forward instead of remaining trapped by your past. Resilience is built by remembering that your future is shaped more by your response than by the challenge itself. Pain also has a unique way of developing qualities that comfort rarely can. Patience grows when progress is slow. Compassion grows after understanding personal struggle. Courage grows by facing fear repeatedly instead of avoiding it. Discipline grows through continuing to act even when motivation disappears. These qualities become lasting strengths because they are earned through experience rather than convenience. People who have overcome meaningful challenges often carry a quiet confidence that comes from knowing they have already survived difficult seasons and can face future ones with greater wisdom. Over time, experiences that once seemed unbearable often become the foundation of your greatest growth. They increase your understanding, deepen your character, and strengthen your ability to handle life's uncertainties. While no one chooses pain, everyone has the opportunity to choose how they respond to it. By approaching hardship with honesty, patience, and a willingness to learn, you gradually transform obstacles into stepping stones. What once appeared to be the end of your progress becomes the beginning of a stronger mindset, greater emotional resilience, clearer purpose, and a deeper appreciation for the strength that can only be developed by continuing to move forward even when the journey becomes difficult. One of the most valuable skills you can develop is learning to protect your energy by being intentional about the people you allow into your life. Every relationship influences you in some way. The conversations you have, the attitudes you are surrounded by, and the habits you observe gradually shape your own thinking, often without you realizing it. This is why your circle matters. It is not about surrounding yourself only with successful people or avoiding everyone who faces challenges. It is about choosing relationships built on mutual respect, honesty, encouragement, and personal responsibility. The people closest to you should inspire growth rather than constant distraction. They should encourage accountability instead of making excuses, and they should celebrate progress instead of creating unnecessary competition or negativity. Many people underestimate how much emotional energy is consumed by unhealthy relationships. Constant drama, endless complaints, repeated dishonesty, manipulation, and a lack of respect can quietly drain your focus. You may begin every day with motivation, only to lose it through conversations filled with criticism, gossip, or unnecessary conflict. Over time, this emotional exhaustion affects your confidence, your productivity, and even your ability to think clearly. Protecting your energy means recognizing when certain interactions consistently leave you feeling discouraged, distracted, or emotionally depleted. Awareness is the first step toward making healthier choices about where you invest your time and attention. Protecting your energy also means learning that you do not have to participate in every argument, respond to every opinion, or carry every person's emotional burden. Compassion is important, but compassion does not require sacrificing your own well-being. Healthy boundaries allow you to care about others while still respecting your own limits. Saying no to situations that repeatedly undermine your peace is not an act of selfishness, it is an act of responsibility. Boundaries create space for meaningful relationships because they are built on respect instead of obligation. They help you preserve the emotional strength needed to pursue your goals, care for the people who truly matter, and remain present in your own life. Choosing your circle carefully also requires paying attention to consistent behavior rather than temporary impressions. First impressions can be misleading. Someone may appear supportive during easy moments, but become unreliable when challenges arise. Another person may speak confidently about loyalty while repeatedly breaking promises through their actions. Trust is built over time through consistency, honesty, and accountability. Instead of rushing relationships, allow people the opportunity to show who they are through repeated choices. Patience often reveals character more accurately than words ever can. It is equally important to become the kind of person you hope to attract. If you value honesty, practice honesty. If you seek dependable friends, become dependable yourself. If you admire discipline, strengthen your own habits first. Healthy relationships are strengthened when both people contribute to growth instead of expecting one person to carry all the responsibility. The quality of your circle often reflects the qualities you consistently demonstrate in your own life. As you become more intentional about your relationships, you may notice that your life becomes quieter. There may be fewer unnecessary conflicts, fewer distractions, and fewer situations demanding constant emotional attention. At first, this change can feel unfamiliar, but it creates room for deeper focus, stronger habits, and more meaningful connections. You begin investing your energy where it produces lasting value instead of temporary drama. Your conversations become more encouraging, your goals become clearer, and your peace becomes easier to protect. Over time, you realize that choosing your circle wisely is not about excluding people out of pride. It is about creating an environment where respect, trust, growth, and mutual encouragement can flourish. By protecting your energy and surrounding yourself with people who challenge you to become wiser, stronger, and more responsible, you build a life supported by relationships that strengthen your character instead of weakening it. Patience is one of the rarest qualities in a world that constantly encourages speed. Every day, people are surrounded by messages promising instant success, quick recognition, and immediate rewards. It is easy to believe that if progress is not visible within a short period, then something must be wrong. This mindset causes many people to abandon meaningful goals long before they have had enough time to grow. The truth is that most lasting achievements are not created through sudden breakthroughs. They are built through small, consistent actions repeated over long periods. The strongest careers, the deepest knowledge, the healthiest relationships, and the greatest personal transformations are usually the result of steady commitment rather than dramatic moments. Those who understand this stop chasing shortcuts and begin investing in habits that compound over time. Building a meaningful future requires trusting the process even when results are invisible. Imagine planting a seed in the ground. For days or even weeks, nothing appears above the surface. Someone who judges progress only by what they can immediately see might believe nothing is happening and give up. Yet beneath the soil, roots are spreading, gathering strength, and preparing for future growth. Personal development works in much the same way. Every hour spent reading, practicing, learning, or improving may seem insignificant by itself, but those efforts quietly accumulate. Skills deepen, judgment improves, discipline strengthens, and confidence grows long before anyone else notices. When visible success finally arrives, people often see only the outcome, not the countless ordinary days that made it possible. One reason people become impatient is because they compare their lives with the visible achievements of others. Social media, public recognition, and success stories often show the highlights while hiding the years of preparation behind them. Comparing your beginning to someone else's destination creates unnecessary frustration. Every person's journey is shaped by different experiences, opportunities, and challenges. The only meaningful comparison is with the person you were yesterday. Ask yourself whether you are learning something new, strengthening a useful habit, or making better decisions than before. Small improvements repeated consistently create extraordinary results over time. Patience also gives you the freedom to make wiser decisions. When people are desperate for immediate results, they often accept opportunities that do not match their values or long-term goals. They rush into commitments, abandon important plans, or seek quick rewards that ultimately slow their progress. A patient person thinks differently. They understand that every decision should support the future they are trying to build rather than satisfy a temporary desire. This perspective reduces unnecessary pressure because success is no longer measured by today's applause, but by years of consistent growth. Another important lesson is that discipline becomes more valuable than motivation. Motivation changes from day to day. Some mornings you feel inspired, while other days you may feel tired or uncertain. If progress depends entirely on emotion, consistency becomes impossible. Discipline allows you to continue even when excitement fades. You read another chapter, complete another practice session, keep another promise to yourself, and take another small step forward. Each of these actions may appear ordinary, yet together they create remarkable momentum. As months and years pass, you begin noticing something important. Confidence grows because you have repeatedly proven to yourself that you can remain committed. Opportunities increase because your abilities have expanded through consistent effort. Challenges become less intimidating because experience has strengthened your resilience. You stop worrying about keeping up with everyone else because your attention is focused on your own path. Patience becomes a source of peace instead of frustration, and long-term thinking replaces the constant desire for immediate results. Eventually, you realize that the people who achieve meaningful success are rarely those who move the fastest. They are often the ones who remain committed when others lose interest, who continue learning when others stop improving, and who quietly build strong foundations while the world chases quick rewards. By choosing patience over haste and steady progress over instant gratification, you create a future shaped by lasting growth, quiet confidence, and achievements that are strong enough to endure the test of time.